Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, hello and welcome. My name is Katie and this is my monthly reading wrap-up video. So this is for the month of September, and if you want to know what I've been reading this month and what I've enjoyed reading this month, then make sure you keep on watching because I've got this little pile of books to talk about and a few audiobooks. So yeah, stick around if you want to hear what I've been reading for September 2023 and my thoughts and reviews. September. I didn't know I was going to read this as much this month because it's been my birthday, if you've seen past videos, and I actually had a good reading month, like around average what I would read in a month. Plus I have read or listened to 3 audiobooks as well, so if you saw last month, the audiobooks are carrying on a series that I started on Audible. So the first 2 books I'm just going to quickly talk about are books 4 and 5, I believe, of the Haunted Guest House series, which I listened to on Audible by E.J. Copperman. And as I've said before, it's kind of just a cosy murder mystery with ghosts involved. And I'm absolutely loving this series. I've been listening to it when I've been putting Louis to bed, I've been listening to it when I've been doing housework, and book 4 was called Chance of a Ghost, and yeah, and book 5 was called An Open Spook. And just general thoughts I love everything about this series. It's so easy to listen to. The narrator, I didn't know how I was going to get on with the narrator at first because she's American, but her voice ties in with the book so well because it's a New Jersey accent, and that's where the book is based. So yeah, it's so cozy, light-hearted as well. It's not like mega serious, and it's actually quite funny. So I really enjoyed that. And I love the story. Like, each book is just like the owner of the haunted guest house helping other ghosts solve who's like murdered them or someone who's been murdered in their like families and stuff, and wanting them to find out who's done it. And yeah, so book 4, I just put that. I love the story, I love the characters, it's just such a light-hearted, easy read. Book 5, I loved the premise of the plot of this one, and I've just put I can't wait to continue on, so I have continued on. Obviously I read book 6 this month and I'm on book 7 as I'm filming this. I'm just going to quickly pick up them books that just fell on the floor. So I buddy read this with my friend Chanel, who I met through TikTok, and we've done lots of buddy reads, and we talk about books and Harry Potter and our love for Christmas. So we planned to read this because I think I book ferried this to her so we could buddy read it together. So this is A Dark Inheritance, and it's by H.F. Asquith. I bought this back in April, I believe. Saved it for autumn time, and it was a bit underwhelming. It's about a curse that's been bestowed upon a family, and the sons, there's a family of sons, and 3 of them have already passed on due to being having unfortunate accidents, shall we say, on their birthdays. So I think it's their 21st or 18th birthday. So they all had unfortunate accidents on their 18th birthday, and they were unfortunately passed away. So Felix is the only son left, and he's trying to discover why this curse has been bestowed upon them, and he is on a countdown basically until his birthday to try and figure out if he can stop the curse, which sounds really interesting. And it says somewhere on it it's dark academia, I think, but I wouldn't class this as dark academia. My thoughts on this were it was quite slow, not what I expected when it was described as dark academia. I wouldn't put it in that category myself. It did have some grim descriptions of violence in it, and yeah, it's cool. They've put it as a twisty gothic horror fantasy, which I can get, but I think there could have been more to this. Like, we didn't find out about why the curse was around and how it started until like closer to the end of the book, which was really annoying. And I personally felt the ending felt a bit rushed. I didn't feel there was enough backstory into the magic about the curse, and the magic wasn't explained very well, and it was only explained like right near the end, so it was like, what's the point telling me now? So yeah, a bit disappointing. I gave it 2 stars, so not the best starts in the month, but I did really like how pretty the cover looked. So I personally wouldn't read it again. It'll probably go in my charity shop pile, unless anyone else wants it, but I am a spine cracker, so if you do ever want any of my paperbacks, the spines will probably be cracked. So that was A Dark Inheritance by H.F. Asquith. Next, I read A Lesson in Vengeance. Now this was what I would call dark academia. This book was so good for autumn and spooky season. If I'd realised it was going to be like kind of timed around Halloween, I would have saved it for October, but sometimes you can't tell until you read the book. This had dark academia vibes, witchy vibes, dark magic vibes, it felt a bit like a bit of a psychological thriller element as well, because we're following Felicity, who is someone who thinks she's unalived someone, shall we say, and she thinks she's done something, but it's kind of like following her psychological journey and finding out other things relating to the witches that are related to the school in this book. And yeah, I read this quite quickly, and I've given it 4.5 stars, so I really, really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was very twisty and turny, and some of the characters in it I didn't know whether to trust or not. And yeah, it was really, really good. It's by Victoria Lee. I don't know if I said that, but I absolutely love this cover as well. It's so pretty. But yeah, 4.5 stars for A Lesson in Vengeance. So when I read that, I thought, yes, got into good books. So I would highly recommend if you're looking for a dark, witchy book. And yeah, highly recommend. Next was this book called The Lighthouse Witches. Now, again, after the Lesson of Vengeance, I thought maybe I'm on to a few winners now with like witchy books. However, it wasn't what I expected either. So I thought it was going to be like about witches relating to a lighthouse. This has more of a folklore theme to witches. It's talking about witches in the 1600s being trialled for witchcraft. It talks about a creature that is taking people. It's based in Scotland, talking about kind of Scottish history and Scottish folklore and stuff like that. And it didn't feel very like fantasy-esque or witchy. It had more of a thriller element, I would say, than like fantasy for me personally. I found it a bit too slow. I'm just reading my notes. And I have put more of a thriller element than witchy. It was more folklore and more about a creature and only a little bit about the witches from the 1600s. So I remember this one had multiple POVs. It jumped back and forth in time as well, future and present. No, not future, past and present timelines, and it did have diary entries from the lighthouse owner back in the 1600s, doing the diary about the witch trials. So yeah, unfortunately this wasn't the best book either for me personally. Someone else might enjoy it more, but it's by C.J. Cook and it's The Lighthouse Witches, and I gave it 3 stars. So it was okay, but I think I've read things for me personally that could have been better. So that was that one. What do we have next? Oh, this one. Next we have Do No Harm. Now this is by Jack Jordan, who is quite a well-known thriller writer, and I absolutely love this. It was a great thriller read and I couldn't put it down. I read it so quickly. It's about a surgeon who has to make a decision whether she ends somebody's life on the operating table to save her son, or her son basically is going to be killed. It was straight into the story right from the off. Like, I thought, wow, that's like straight in, like with the story. It kind of reminded me a bit of Taken, because her son was taken by kind of foreign gangster people, and held hostage. So it's kind of like she's having to do what they say and kind of work with them to be able to get her son back. Really, really good. It's really fast paced, and there was a couple of twists in there which made me like my jaw drop. So I may look at more thrillers by Jack Jordan, because I've heard he's very good and I really, really enjoyed Do No Harm. So I gave Do No Harm 4.5 stars. So that was another great read. Next is going back to the audiobooks. Is the next, the third audiobook that I read of the Haunted Guesthouse series. So this one was called The Thrill of the Haunt by E.J. Copperman. And I just put again, this one was such a good book for easy listening. This one had twists and turns, and some of the dialogue and the way it was narrated made me chuckle in parts as well. So yeah, like some of the quoting and things. I actually rated that one 4.5 stars, because I think it made me like laugh, and as I said, there was twists and turns in that one more than the others. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that one. And the other two I read it towards the start of the month. I gave 4 stars. So yeah, I'll put images of the audiobook on the screen as well, so you can look for the right ones. But obviously these are all part of one series. So that was my third audiobook of the month. Next we have 16 Souls. This is by an author on TikTok called Rosie Talbot. And obviously I want to support a young author, and unfortunately this was a bit of a letdown for me personally. I thought, it's going to be like quite spooky and ghosty, but it was a YA book, and I don't know, I think I've got quite a lot of notes on this one. So I put, once the plot got going, it was okay. However, for me personally, the writing felt quite young, and I'll explain that. She used a couple of words in this book like over and over and over again. It was like getting overused, and for me the words were quite young words as well that you hear when you're in your teens. So it made me feel like, is this meant to be for younger people than me, like audience wise? I know it's young adult, but yeah, so that was a major point for me that was quite off-putting. I liked the fact that there was LGBTQ representation in the book, but I think there was too much representation in the book. For me personally, it felt like she was trying to make sure that everybody, like of different representations and orientations, were represented in the book, but like just cramming them all in to make sure that everyone who read it was like represented. But I felt like that was too much for me personally. Like, if someone is wanting to focus on like a disability representation or LGBTQ representations, I'd rather they focus on like 1, 2, maybe 3 representations and make them stand out more, rather than trying to throw everybody in, wanting everyone to be represented and making it feel like it's a bit too much to read. So yeah, that's a little bit off-putting, but that's just me, my personal preference. So unfortunately, this was a bit of a mediocre read as well, and I gave, 16 souls, 3 stars. Next, I haven't had a very good month this month. I don't think anything's been 5 stars this month, which is a bit disappointing, but not every month can be like that. So, next I read the Luminaries, or Luminaires. I've been saying Luminaries because that's how I've been reading the title. And this is by Susan Dennard, and I actually got the Sprayed Edge edition. You can see that. It's very, very pretty. And I absolutely love this cover. I think it's beautiful. However, this wasn't the best read either. And I personally found it a bit slow paced. I'm not sure if it's because it's building up to the second book, which is coming out in November, I believe. And I personally found the female main character called Winnie really annoying. Like, she's kind of got that whole good girl geeky vibe, but wants to be like badass kind of thing. And you're in the book, you find out that her father has done something or gone off with someone, and it's kind of made their family a bit of an outcast. So no one's wanting to talk to her or mother, and she's wanting to be part of the Luminaries, which is kind of a group which hunts creatures, like magical creatures and things like that. And she could only go into the trials for being a Luminary on the month of her 16th birthday, which starts off in this book. And yeah, so I personally found Winnie, which was the main character, quite annoying. She had this trait which really got on my nerves when I read it. Every time I read it in a sentence, I was like, is this awfully trying to like put me off? And I don't know if the trait was meant to be like an anxiety trait or kind of a social trait that she does something in public to show that she's anxious or nervous, because it was just constant. She was like doing it constantly, and I was just like, do you really need to be doing that? I know people get nervous and anxious and that, but does this character really need to do this annoying trait so often? So yeah, I felt really passionate about that. I was talking to my friend about it, and so she got a bit of me ranting about it. And I didn't fully understand the relationship between Winnie and Jay, which is the male main character, which is her kind of childhood friend. It started to show she had feelings for him, but nothing came of it in this book. Like, he may have showed a little bit of like sexual tension, but he didn't do anything else about it, so I don't know if he likes her or not. I don't know if there's going to be a bit more of a relationship progression in the second book, but yeah, it was a bit strange. And then the last 70 or so pages were the best part of the book, because that was, again, I've said this before, but all the action was happening, and it really gripes me when authors put all the action at the end of the book and not spread it out. Like, there's a couple of bits of action in the book because she was doing trials, but it was just annoying. Yeah, so the last 70 pages, the pace picked up, the plot was picking up in the sense of being able to understand what's going to happen, and yeah, so it did end on a little bit of a cliffhanger, so I will eventually read the second book, but I won't be in a rush to read it because I'm worried I'm going to get annoyed at Winnie clicking her teeth in the second book. So I gave The Luminaries 3 stars. So again, I was a bit gutted about that because I bought such a pretty edition and I didn't enjoy it. So I may keep it for if I get the physical book of the second one, because that'll have a nice edge as well, but that'll be it. 4 audiobooks this month. I forgot one, which is the next book in the Haunted Guest House series. So when I talk about these Haunted Guest House books, this is what I mean. They're not long. As I said, I was listening to them when I put Louis to bed each night, and when I've been doing washing up or something like that. And the first line I put in my notes is, I am so invested in this story, the characters, the whole vibe of the book in general, and as someone who only got properly into audiobooks over the last year, this is the most I've ever listened to audiobooks, like, ever. Like, I don't listen to like one audiobook a month, but this series has made me listen to lots of audiobooks. And yeah, so as I said, it's got a small town vibe, paranormal murder mystery. It's cozy, it's funny, it's light-hearted. It's just a really nice read to listen to as well. Like, it makes me chuckle in places listening to what the characters say. And as I said, I'm reading the next one after this at the moment, and yeah, it's still capturing my heart. Like, I'm really, really enjoying this series, and I'm gonna be gutted when it ends. But it was just a free. I think most of the books on Audible are free. I think the last book, I think you might have to use a credit for, but hopefully by then I might have a credit already available to use, so I might use it on that. But yeah, I gave Inspector Spectre by E.J. Copperman 4 stars. So all these books by E.J. Copperman have all been around 4 to 4.5 stars. And yeah, I'm really, really enjoying that audiobook series. Right, another book that frustrated me. I told you I haven't had a great book month this month, apart from maybe two books I've rated 4.5 stars. And this is the last physical book I read, and the last book I've got to show you is one that I DNF'd. So yeah, and this book I also read with my friend Chanel, and it is These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. Now, we both went into this thinking we're going to enjoy it. However, I've got a whole page of notes here to talk about this book. So I'm guessing that could be a good thing for you also, because I'm wanting to rant and rave about this book because it wasn't as good as I hoped. So, this book, for both me and my friend, was frustrating. So we're following our main female character called Abriella, who is shortened to Bree in the book. She's just a normal human. We find out in the book that her and her sister have been abandoned by her mother, and they're essentially living on their own. And she is stealing to basically earn money for living with her aunt, who is not very nice. So from that sense, I got the vibe of Cinderella, because she's living with two cousins that are not very nice, an aunt which isn't very nice, and she is kind of like Cinderella in a sense because she's doing all the work for them. Like, they're not lifting a finger, she's having to make food, make the cousins' beds and things like that. So that was the first vibe I got from the book. Second vibe, when you find out she does thieving for a living, like thieving riches, for example, it kind of felt like Robin Hood, because she's robbing from a rich, noble person for her own personal gain, to help her and her sister live. So it's kind of like robbing from the rich to give to the poor. So that's the Robin Hood vibe I got from the book. So she's a normal human, and she's thieving for a living. She goes to thieve from a specific palace in general, and to pay her aunt to live with her. And she basically gets hunted by this royal person that she's stolen from, and her sister has been taken by an unsteely king, who lives in like kind of the fairyland. So she's having to go to fairyland, which she despises because she thinks they're very controlling and take advantage of humans, and she doesn't like them. So she has to go to this fairyland to try and steal 3 artifacts for this unseelie king in order to get her sister back. Yeah, so that is essentially the plot of the story. Right, so I can understand, because a lot of reviews of this book say that the author is trying to portray elements from the ACOTAR series, which is very, very popular by Sarah J Maas, and that is all kind of, again, like fae, steely, unsteely, dark prince, like dark shadow prince and a light prince, different kingdoms and things like that. And there's also elements of the Cruel Prince in it, which is by Holly Black, which is again about fairies and fae and a prince in a golden palace and things like that. So people are saying that this author is trying to put in elements of those books into this, and it kind of being similar in a sense. So I did get why people put that in their reviews, because I did have that kind of feeling as well when I was reading it. And what I'm saying now, I'm going to put on the screen, spoiler, 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 spoiler. So if you're wanting to read this, please skip a few minutes, because I'm going to talk about a couple of spoilers. So we found out that Bree has some dark kind of powers. She can go into shadow and like kind of turn herself into a shadow and go through walls and turn herself into darkness so she can get through places sneakily like a thief. So it kind of is a positive power for her because she can use it to her advantage. So when we find out that Bree has powers, she only finds out because of a Seelie prince. They don't want to tell her how strong she can be with her powers because they don't want to say too much. So Bree's having to work out how to use her powers. She gets trained by this Seelie prince to help strengthen her powers and tap into them more. It was like it was just thrown in there. Like there was no information or backstory about these powers, why she got these powers, and who they're from. And we don't find out about her part of her past until near the end, when we find out more about her mother and other things relating to the story about why she's trying to get these artifacts and the people she's getting the artifacts for. And she's also having to pretend to want to be married to Sebastian, which is a Seelie prince who pretended to be human to kind of groom Bree into kind of wanting to get married to him because he's having to find a bride. It's all very like complicated, but so that is kind of what's going on in the book. So we have Sebastian, who's meant to be a good prince. We find out some things about him that kind of changes our perception and view of him towards the end. And we have Prince Finn, who is a unseelie prince, but is more helpful to Bree than Sebastian. So I personally found Bree, the main female character in this book, annoying. I don't know what it's been about in books this month, but I found lots of female characters annoying this month. There is kind of a love triangle trope as well, so she's obviously trying to show feelings towards Sebastian, who she's known for 2 years, but didn't know, spoiler, that he is Fae, and he obviously is trying to find a bride for his kingdom. And she also starts to develop feelings for Finn, who is an unseelie prince, so more of the dark shadow prince, but she's kind of conflicted on feelings because she knew Sebastian longer and is being told to fake her feelings to make it look like she wants to marry him, but she kind of has feelings for Finn because he's helped her with her powers and things. So there's a lot going on in this book, but it was kind of like back and forth going between the two princes, and it was just like, really, you got to just make your own decision. And yeah, she was quite annoying. Some of the dialogue we discussed, me and my friend, thought was quite like annoying as well, how it was written. So yeah, I have ranted about this book. I only gave it 3 stars as well because it was okay in places, but quite a lot of it we found annoying and frustrating. So we couldn't give it any higher than 3 because we wanted there to be backstory about the magic part and maybe some more about her past, but there wasn't much in there relating to that. It does leave a bit on a cliffhanger as well, so I do want to read the second, but again, like the Luminaries, I'm not in a rush to read the second one because it frustrated me so much that I don't want to get annoyed at the female main character again. So that is These Hollow Vows by Lexi Ryan. So yeah, 3 stars for that one. The only book that I DNF'd this month, and I was actually having high hopes for this book because it was The Stranger Times by C.K. McDonnell, and this is a trilogy. I bought this one and I bought the second one because I thought I was going to enjoy it. I didn't. Obviously, I DNF'd it. And I was really disappointed because the first half of the book had funny quotes from characters, funny lines in like describing something. It was making me laugh out loud. It was making me chuckle and giggle and things like that. But then I got past halfway and it just started falling a bit flat. Like, I could see where it was going because they're investigating something that's going on in the plot. And yeah, it was just like, it fell a bit flat and I could feel myself like not being interested in wanting to read it. So that really sounds really horrible, I know, but I'm just being honest. It's kind of, I think, meant to be urban fantasy, but yeah, it wasn't really up my street, I'm afraid. But I have made a couple of notes just to say why I DNF'd it. As I said, I had so many high hopes for it because it was making me laugh in places and some of the lines were actually really funny. However, as I said, it just felt a bit flat. And I did like the fact that it's based on a newspaper, but I don't know if it's because it's kind of urban fantasy, and I haven't really read that genre before, that I wasn't really feeling anything for it. So yeah, unfortunately I did DNF The Stranger Times, and I won't be reading the second one that I've got. So yeah, unfortunately ending the video on a DNF, but it can't be helped. These things happen. So yeah, let's go through a quick roundup of books. So I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, almost 12 then. It's 11 or 12 books I've read this month, because I forget, I must have miscounted the audiobooks. So yeah, really good reading month for me. Favourites of the month, I think you can guess which two were the favourites, because they were the highest rated books. Lesson of Vengeance and Do No Harm. Very different books, but good in their own ways. So I really, really enjoyed those. And then least favourites, I've put down 16 Souls and A Dark Inheritance. So they were my least favourites of the month. Could have been any of the other ones, to be fair. But they both had their own different reasons why I wasn't a fan of them. So yeah, that is September's reading wrap up. Let me know if you've had any good books this month, if I didn't think that you might think I might be interested in. So I have got some books for October. I have got my book I got for my birthday from Waterstones, Masters of Death, which I'm going to have as my Halloween read. So I might even do like a little vlog on that to see how I get on trying to read Masters of Death on Halloween. And yeah, hopefully my October reading wrap up, I will maybe have the tree on, might even sit closer to the tree, make it a bit more spooky. I have got my one of my ghost cardigans on because it is getting a bit chilly. So yeah, October will probably be more autumnal, witchy, maybe more thrillers reads, ones that I've set aside. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a big thumbs up. If you are brand new, hello and welcome. Please hit that subscribe button, as I'm trying my hardest to grow my channel, and we do these monthly book wrap-ups every month. And I have done a couple of other book videos, but these are my main bookish videos that I do. I might do the Halloween reading vlog, but I shall see how I feel. But yeah, so I will speak to you at the end of October for what I read then. Take care. Bye.